Good afternoon, Dr. Haas, and to all my beloved classmates. So today we're going to talk about the effectiveness of the current land development regulatory framework. So we know that there is a law in Malaysia that governs the real estate, such as the Housing Development Act, the Town and Country Planning Act, and so forth. But what we're going to do is that we're going to talk about the effectiveness of the current law. So what do you guys think about the existing regulatory framework that we have in Malaysia? Do you think that it's effective, or do you think it's ineffective to certain group of people in Malaysia? What do you guys think? Any opinion?
I don't think that there are two sides of the coin.
Okay.
There is also effectiveness and ineffectiveness.
Right.
But as a start, I would suggest that I will start with the effectiveness of the law in Malaysia and the regulatory that we have at the moment. One of the things that I think is very good that we have is about the tribunal of the strata management.
I agree.
So I think that previously we had various issues of properties incompleted, abandoned, and many house buyers face issues with not getting their property. In fact, one of my relatives, her house was under the abandoned project, whereby it took them up 5 years, 6 years later, only she managed to get the property. And that is a landed property. If a landed property, if you got the building, you still have the land. But what now? All buildings are high-rise, strata. If you buy a house and then you don't have this, you're buying an air space. So I think it's affected us even as a house buyer even more. Hence, with this tribunal, I think this strata management, the Strata Title Act and Strata Management Act, has helped us a lot in curbing this abandoned property. Maybe someone would like to add on.
I kind of agree with you because we have gone through with the HDA Act, which has been revised, and it provides more protections to the home buyers, especially for the abandoned projects, and the developer as well might face the criminal charges as well if they abandon the project. And to become a housing developers nowadays, it's not as easy as for the past 20 years ago, and because of the existing regulations that we have. But what do you guys think about the abandoned project then?
Building on what Angeline said, I think I agree with her that right now I think in terms of Malaysia real estate laws, a lot of it covers housing, so it's quite comprehensive. But I disagree that it is effective because I think sometimes when it comes to abandoned housing, it's also affected by last minute unreasonable difficulties imposed by local and planning authorities. For example, like in the case of Pangkam Thai versus Langkah Cerdas and Dun Bahad, the completion of the housing development and the delivery of the BT were delayed. As such, the purchasers claimed liquidated damages to the developer. However, a big reason of why the developer was late is because the planning authorities has issued new demands to their project. So who is it to be blamed here? Is it the developer or the planning authorities? In the end, actually, so because of the delay of the issuance of the CCC, the judgment made was that the developer will still need to pay the LAD. So it is effective in the sense that, okay, the LAD is a problem between the developer to the purchaser. The delay of the CCC is between the developer and the authorities. So as such, the issue shouldn't be passed from the developer and the authorities to the purchasers. So it is effective in some ways, and I think it's ineffective in some ways.
Thank you very much. I do agree as well, and there's a pros and cons. But in my personal opinion, I don't think it's very effective in protecting the home buyer interest. But can we agree that the law that we have is, for example, the abandoned project that has been protected the home buyers' interest, or should we enhance more on the existing law? What do you guys think?
I think I would support the idea of the introducing of the strata title,
Alright.
which is actually by introducing the strata title in our country, it encourage the national economy by producing more housing in strata title means that many houses, so that can develop economy by generate more income from taxes. So more property, more taxes, then it will encourage the producing of money to our country.
Yes, I agree. This is a very good idea, very good point of view.
And then it will also encourage the development of transit-oriented development. Means that TOD is usually developed by developer focusing on strata building area, which is encourage the public transportation development at that kind of area.
Yep. Anyone wants to add on that? On the Strata Act?
I think just going back to the Housing Development Act, we pretty much have the housing sector covered, but what about the commercial sector? Is there anything similar to the Housing Development Act that can protect commercial developments as well?
That's a very good question. Because we have HDA that protect the home buyer interest. What about for those who are in commercial, right? Yeah. What do you think, Mr. Wong? I believe that is your.
I think the Strata Act is quite effective in protecting the buyer interest. Like, for example, nowadays the buyers, when they want to buy a house, the developers, they need to pay for the cyphers, which the cyphers they will dedicate all the necessary parcels like the aircon ledge and also the car parks area for all these houses. And then this necessary parcel they will tag to the SPA. So the buyers will can determine which car park is theirs car parks. So it is I think it's sort of having the home buyer interest.
So do you think that we should create a new law that protect the commercial properties? Yeah, because the
Yeah,
HDA.
yours actually doesn't cover the commercial.
Yep.
I agree with you.
We should
They should
create a new law that protect the interests of the
for commercial and industrial.
commercial and industry. Well, I agree. What do you guys think? Should we have a new law, or the HDA is not good enough? It's not covered to the other group of people
Yeah.
in the real estate market. What do you guys think about the commercial properties?
I think as of now, like in terms of residential, I think we already have not enough effectiveness in terms of like maintaining and enforcing the regulatory framework. Adding on commercial is like opening another can of worms. It's just going to increase the job of government and the enforcers. So I think for now, because housing is way more important because it's a house that people live in. In terms of commercial, I mean it's not a life and death. It's not like I don't have a roof above my house. So I think it can still take time to develop.
I agree as well. Because it's a very interesting idea. Because the government needs to solve the main problem, which is a lot of people doesn't have a decent house in Malaysia. And not to mention that I did a little bit study in Selangor as well, for my research proposal. And Selangor has like a lot of people in Selangor are renting a property instead of owning a property. And there is a lot of other factors that contribute to such decisions. And yeah, I think we should emphasize more into the existing problem, the main problem, which is the residential property, not into the commercial. But what do you guys think about the Land Acquisitions Act? Do you guys have any thought on that? Like, because the Land Acquisition Act, especially in Sarawak, a lot of native land that has been acquired by the government, and they need that land to farm, to yeah. So what do you guys think about the Land Acquisition Act? Do you think?
I think I want to add in about the disagreement about to establish a new law for commercial, right?
All right.
So yes, agree that opening or developing new law or regulation, it might trigger new issues. So we have to emphasize on housing issue first. But we are not seeking for perfection, right? So it's no harm for us to at least develop a little law or bylaws or regulation on commercial. So because basically everything in this world needs law. So thanks.
And that's a very good point of view, because what I've been thinking is that just like Leon said, it might put a lot of stress into the government to focus another new area, which is into the commercial area. But what I think is that the government should like employ more people and to give more opportunity to the country and create more jobs to solve this kind of problem, which is to protect the commercial and the industrial sectors instead of just focus into one, which is the residential. Probably, in my opinion, what I think is that it might create new wealth to the people because they be able to buy a commercial properties with interest that has been protected as well, because at this moment we are not protected. What about the online students? What do you guys think?
Yes, I kind of agree that the Contract Act is actually protecting the industrial property buyers as well as commercial, because normally for the commercial or industrial property buyers, they will engage their own lawyer to actually look through the agreement. So I believe from there they're actually protected from the legal advice and etc. That's what I think.
Well, thank you so much. I also agree with you. We have a very good Contract Act, but what do you guys think? I mean, should we enhance the existing law, just like we have for the HDA that has been revised, that give more protections to the home buyers, to stimulate the demand in the market?
I think just to add to that, when you're dealing with contract law,
Yeah.
I mean, law itself, I mean, it's very expensive, right, to engage with lawyers, and
Yeah.
especially when it's with regards to Contract Act, where they will have to look at each agreement in detail, and it's different from one contract to another, right?
Yeah.
Because there's nothing governing it like the HDA. Whereas I think you can see that when you're dealing with SPAs and you engage a lawyer on that, the fees is much lower because it's basically everything is in the act. But for commercial properties, you don't have something like that. So it's on a case by case basis where after a while your legal fees will be very high when you look at agreements and contract law.
Yeah, I agree with you. Since speaking of the cost that will be paying for the contract, especially to those lawyers, but for the HDA we do have tribunal, right? And that the cost is not too expensive, and it's much more faster and efficient. And I have seen a lot of cases that it's very efficient, but they also another side which is criticized on the tribunal, which is not so effective and it's like redundant. I'm not too sure, but what do you guys think? Should we have like a tribunal for the commercial and the industrial properties, just like we have for the HDA? We do have the tribunal.
As commercial is a very big difference between one commercial building to another building, and if we have such a regulated role, it becomes very difficult for corporate to actually have a different arrangement and different agreement in their purchase of a property. That's our opinion.
That's very interesting. So do you guys think that it's effective, or do you guys think it's ineffective? If it's ineffective, so the government should enhance more. If it's effective, then since it's only for certain type of people who have money, right? I was thinking about for those people who are in the B40 who want to start a business. I'm not too sure. What do you guys think? Or can we conclude? You want to add something? What about the online class? Online student? Shall we conclude for the Contract Act, the HDA, tribunal, that we agree that it's effective, but the government should enhance more on the commercial and industrial sectors?
I think in terms of the commercial sector, commercial properties, I think Angeline is right. I think it's effective enough for now. If it's anything, the only area that probably needs to be seen or have more oversight is offices, because we're clearly with overdevelopment of offices right now. We have empty towers. So if in any case, I think if the government is to come in and look at the whole commercial area, it would be offices, not so much of industries or shop offices.
It's very good.
Oversupplies in offices.
It's very good. I agree as well. So should we conclude that it's effective? But we need to get some.
Is it really effective?
I think we not necessarily should conclude it. We can go to the next.
Yeah, so we conclude for the Contract Act, the HDA. Yeah, so it's very good as well. So, but I was thinking about the Land Acquisition Act, because in my opinion, it's effective, but I also have another side of point of view which is not effective, because it sacrifices a lot of things. What do you think, Kimi? You are the expert for the Land Acquisition Act.
You come first. What about you?
What about the online student? Do you have any opinion on that? On the Land Acquisition Act, do you think it's effective or it's not effective? I think it's effective, but I also think it's not effective. But what do you guys think?
It's under the National Land Code, is it? I don't think it's Land Acquisition Act.
What do you think, Iris?
Hi.
Yeah. Hi.
In terms of Land Acquisition Act,
Yeah.
I think there's some confusions when we come to payments. The compensation to the landowner. Yeah, there isn't any because different states has different kind of ruling, and this is a very complicated process when they come to the compensations. All the landowner will think that their land actually worth much more than what is being offered. And always this is a lengthy process, and actually it's a turn off for a project. Some times it's really important, but a lot of times we realize that when they want to purchase or acquire a piece of land, the process takes years and years and years. And at that because of that, the demands and everything, the trends of the development is all different by the end of the process. So I think that is something that we have to do with that. Yeah.
Yep. I agree, because we have different land law for the West Malaysia and the East Malaysia. The East Malaysia will be divided into Sarawak and Sabah. But I was curious, in Indonesia, what do you think, Dina, about the Land Acquisition Act in Indonesia? What do you think? Or perhaps in Malaysia?
Oh, well, I agree with Iris, because sometimes the compensation is very related to the market value, because sometimes the people who get the compensation usually think that the land price is too low. Yeah, and it's really complicated.
I agree. The value that has been given by the government, that has their own valuer. It's not a private valuer. So generally speaking, the value that has been valued by the government agency is basically very low as compared to the because of the way they calculate it, right?
And then you know, like when we determine the compensation, basically there's a valuer that act on behalf of the private party and also the government. Basically, valuer being an assessor to determine the market value and the compensation with regards to the affected land and also the surveillance that everybody has affected, that giving the land, surrender the land to the government. Basically, this is how the land acquisition is, I think it's sort of privilege to the government because they need to provide the benefit. I mean, in terms of social benefit, they have to build infrastructures as whatnot, right? So through the Land Acquisition Act, they have privilege to take over others people's land through the acquisition. So if let's say if our government, I mean if your country don't have the acquisition, I mean the act who govern this thing, so I don't think there's a development can be comments out through the public one giving to the government basically. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your point of view. What do you think, Kenny?
Yeah, correct. I agree with Ian. Basically, the land acquisition is for public use. If you want to make a land acquisition, you must have what's the reason you are going to take the land. So, the land acquisition is very important. I don't think it takes a long time because every we have time frame for the owners.
Okay.
So I don't think it's take too long.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. That's a very good point of view. We have two-sided, but what do you think about the Kampung Baru on the land acquisitions?
I did one valuation for Kampung Baru, land acquisition actually.
I see.
I did one.
So how was it?
It's difficult, but it can be done.
It can be done.
Yeah, it can be done.
But wouldn't that taking too long for the process?
Not that long.
Oh, I see.
Because they got their time frame.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the party have to surrender the land.
Surrender.
Because this is compulsory. There's a gazette through the section. So whatever they don't approve, they have to approve at the end of the day. Because this is a government, like instruction from the government, instruction from the boss. Whatever you have to give, and then you have to compensate you back.
I see.
The compensation must be better off and not worse off.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. So well,
What's the meaning of day time frame mean for
We gave that, between gave that, but time. Like that.
There's a time frame.
They means the process or the people or
The process.
The process.
basically, but of course, when people want to take your land,
Mhm.
you have you have the right to not surrender, right?
Right,
So whatever it is, you have to go through the law procedures in order to get the best compensation that you
I see.
yeah.
So-
Whatever it is, you have to surrender.
Right.
Because this is for social benefit, basically.
I see. So I'm curious, what are they going to build at the Kampung Baru? Let's say if the government successfully acquire the land.
Because for Baru is for MRT, right?
MRT.
Last time for MRT. Yeah.
Let's see. What do you think?
I think I do agree for both. Maybe land acquisition is quite important in terms of the processes because due to the importance of that land
Right.
to the public maybe.
Mm.
But I do agree with Ryan also due to the lack of transparency of the government. So maybe this is two bias to the government side
Mm-hmm.
when they want to acquire particular land.
Mm-hmm.
This might lesser the how do we say that? Quite sometimes the empathy to that individual, to that on the individual owner
Yep.
of that particular land. So no matter what I insist, the government must take the land.
Right.
They will have the land. So in order to in order to fight, they will cost themselves. At the end of the day, they will surrender their land.
Right.
So I think it is bias and lack of transparency to government side.
I see.
It's actually a very advantage to the owner actually, because when government take the Kampung Baru land,
Yeah.
the value is open title land, not Malay River land.
I see. I
The
see.
value is much more
Much more
higher.
higher.
I see. I see. I see. I
To
see.
the next owner.
To the next owner.
The
Current
value
owner.
is
Current owner.
I see.
it's open title. So
Compensation is basically given you the open market.
I see. I see.
Oh.
Open title, it's not
It's not
like
Malay
restricted to the
Reserve.
Malay Reserve. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's new. We learned something new
That's the
today.
compensation works because you cannot be worse off by compensation.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. Even though it's stated in your title, there is a Malay Reserve, then compensation would be in the open title market
I
value.
see. I see. What do you think? What do you think about the?
Well, I do think that, yes, value is one thing, but I'm not sure how well does it protect the person who owns the land in the sense that, no two lands are the same. And when you have occupied a place for a long time, right, it has some sort of sentimental value to it, right? So, I mean, if at the end of the day, the person who stays there can't really say much about it, at the end of the day, they have to surrender. And what? I mean, how does that protect me if I were to buy a land? And I mean, there's always that thought that, okay, my land can be taken at any point of time. Yeah.
That's true. What about the online student? Do you have any thought on the land acquisition act, especially in Kampung Baru? Or what about in China, the land acquisition? No?
I want to add on that actually we have to know that our land is under state government, so the land acquisition is how to say is how to say the land is state government one, so when they want to take for the public benefit things like MRT, LRT, all those public use, so we must surrender because we cannot be just the land is I buy, then I have to protect my benefit.
Yep.
So as if you think that how should I protect when I want to buy a land, it's much more a bit selfish because when you think that anytime the government you take back my land if they want, but then not they want, is the moment that they think the place is suitable for the development. They are not simply take your land. They have to follow the Land Acquisition Act at least 4 reasons if I'm not mistaken. So if your land is fulfilled the 4 reasons only they will take. So they will follow the Land Acquisition Act, then take your land by the law proceeding, not simply take as they want. So we no need to like worry and scared. I buy this land 1 million, then 10 years later the government take. But then they just take when the place is suitable for the development.
For the public interest,
Yes,
which work for the whole community.
for the
Interest.
country development.
Yep. So we conclude that the Land Acquisition Act is effective?
Yes. Yes.
It's effective, right? I do agree that the land, okay.
I agree with the effectiveness of the Land Acquisition Act as well as what happened in recently, flash flood happened in Selangor and Klang Valley. I heard from the news that the DID, the Drainage and Irrigation Department, has suggested to acquire some of the river bank which develop with the properties. So they want to acquire some part of the river bank for the enlargement of the river. So I totally agree with this act.
Yep, I think all of us agree that the Land Acquisition Act is beneficial for the country development, for the economy as a whole. But what do the online student think? Do you think it's effective? or do you have different opinion on our Land Acquisition Act in Malaysia?
Yes, agree with you all.
Well, that's good. So we can conclude that the Land Acquisition Act is actually good for the people. Yeah, but Ria, you do have one idea about the ineffectiveness of our law, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you share to the class?
Okay, maybe I can share this real situation from my client.
Okay.
Okay. Actually, this one land, this piece of land, is owned by two different names. This one, but another one owner is passed away already.
Right.
20 years ago. But another, okay, so this piece of land is 1/4 belong to one Chinese, but passed away already. So the another one belong to the what they call is organization.
Right.
3/4. So the thing is, so now this organization they built like tower, telecommunication tower. I think is belong to Axiata, is Telkom.
I see.
So on this title of land is a leasehold. Still got the balances until 2036.
36.
So the question is, so now how they want to convert this title of land, but the current status, this land is the another person one. That's
Right.
the issue.
Right.
So any idea? So maybe everyone can give us some opinion.
So what do you guys think for online student? Do I have any opinion on that? None? What about?
Is it tough?
It's alright. Probably others have their own opinion.
I want to add some more.
Right. Okay.
So, but this landowner, this
Yeah.
third quarter, this company, so they try to get the assistance from the state, which is to use the land acquisition
All right.
to get this land.
I
don't know,
see.
they try to get the power from the minister, something like that. They try to apply for this piece of land because they cannot trace who is the rest. They want to the whole land. Yeah, that's the thing.
So we can safely conclude again. The land acquisition is
So
really
what
good.
kind of land you can use for this?
But I was thinking about the Town and Country Planning Act. What do you guys think on that? What about the online class? I think we have shared a lot. What about Lee Xian Lee?
Sorry, me again. what is it? Sorry.
I think you are really good. I'm just wondering, do you have anything to add?
What is it? Because the line is really bad, so everything that we hear online, right, is very very muffy.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So what was the question again? What was she saying?
So I'm asking about your opinion about the Town and Country Planning Act. Do you think it's effective or it's not effective, or do you have any other opinion that you want to assert about our regulatory framework?
Okay. So for the Town and Planning Act, what I think is good is that they are protecting the old buildings, like the cultural buildings. I think that is one of the things that I really appreciate, that like you see, for example, in Penang, right, there's a lot of cultural buildings that need to be protected from being developed into commercial purpose, because you see, in Penang is very lack of land and for the development. So I think a lot of people, they are trying to aim to utilize all these areas to actually develop into something more money making.
Yep.
So I guess you see, with this Town and Planning Act, this problem can be protected, they can actually protect all these cultural buildings to be, yeah.
I agree. But I was curious about the China market in terms of their regulations. What do you think, Duhua? Do you have any opinion on that?
Hi, doctor. In, um, in my opinion, I believe that the importance of land and non-renewable neutral resources cannot be overstated for China, where the ratio of population to resources is really important.
Yep.
But the land supervision team is weak in China, with very limited staff actually working on the land supervision, and it is often difficult to organize effective force action when problem are identified in the supervision process. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's really insightful. What do you think, Laura? Do you have any opinion that you want to share to us? Probably the law in Malaysia, probably in China. Hello? What about Hao Jie?
Actually, I have no ideas.
No, it's all right.
How did she, Laura, is replying?
Oh, yeah, but it's all right, Hao Jie. But yeah.
Do you want
Hello.
Laura
Hi, Laura. Can you hear me?
Dr. Haas is one
It's Takeshi. Hello. What do you think about the effectiveness on the regulatory framework? Do you have any opinion on that? What do you think? Do you want to add something? And what about you? Do you want to share something about the regulatory framework? Do you think it's effective in Malaysia?
Dr. Haas, Vimala is here. Oh. Mana? Oh.
Hello.
Oh, now I can hear.
Hi, Laura. It's Takeshi. Hi. Yep, I can hear you.
I think maybe Takeshi first. Takeshi first, please.
Huh? What?
Hello? Yeah?
Hello.
What is that?
It's Laura.
Hi. Yes. What do you think about the regulatory framework in Malaysia? Do you think it's
Yes.
effective?
After the courses of this semester, I have learned a lot about and reckon that the land development legal framework in Malaysia can just protect the land and property of the nation very well. And the main regulations and law, such as the National Land Code, which divides the powers of the federal and state government over land, classifies the uses of land, the set of conditions and restrictions on the acquisition, and also the town country planning, just stipulating the state's right and responsibility to classify and divide the uses of their land according to the state specific circumstance, and as well as the land acquisition laws and the properties regulations, such as a guideline on the acquisition of properties, stipulating that the transaction principles and the other regulations during that process, as well as the Environment Quality Act, which is relative in land development and protect the environment during the whole land development process, just monitoring and evaluating by the EIA report, which is just so important to our contractors. So I think all of the whole regulatory framework related to the land development take effect on the national property protection, but I also think we just need to treat it dialectically and objectively in terms of several regulations which are particular and restrictive for our foreign investment company. So I just cite one example. The main function of the National Land Code
is to provide the practical way of land administration in the country. But in the amendment on the year of 1991, it has restricted our foreigners from buying the land categorized as agriculture and building,
Yep,
but not industrial land.
I agree. That's a very good point. Yep. You do have your own point of view, right?
Yeah.
You want to add something on that?
Yeah, this law is actually has set a few guidelines.
Okay, few guidelines. Okay.
It's actually has a tendency to actually prevent damages, harm, pollution.
Right. Pollutions.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it has also ensured that developers actually work between the lines.
Right.
Yeah, so they don't actually maneuver through just everybody stuff.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so I think in that terms, I would say that this law has been actually implemented.
Yep. Yep. I agree. We do have the SPA, the Sales and Purchase Agreement Act, that protect the home buyer interest as well. That it has to be standardized. And yeah, speaking of the pollutions, it affects on the land development as well. What do you guys think? Especially on the just like Laura mentions about the Environmental Quality Act. What about Haojie? Do you want to add something on that? Probably because I was aware that in China they have a very tight regulations on the environmental because of the pollutions. What do you guys think? Haojie? Probably you can talks about, you know, in China. So, hello, Haojie. You want to add something, Kaya? No. What do you guys think about the Environmental Quality Act?
This is important, especially some developments, they are big and
Right.
they have own batching plant. And you know, batching plant is very dirty, you have dust all over the places. And
Yeah.
so if without this proper environmental act,
Mm.
then we are unable to control the developers and contractors when they're doing their construction works,
Yes,
which is actually affecting their neighborhood.
I agree. It's really harmful as well.
Yeah, so a proper report that is required by the government actually helps a lot in the neighboring environment, the
Right.
neighboring people that is living around that area.
Right. I agree. We should protect the surrounding of the development project to not just about the safety, not just about the safety and the health of the people, but it's also about the stages of the construction's development has to comply with the Environmental Quality Act. What about the other student in online?
I would like to share something, some of my thoughts.
Yep. Good.
This act is good in listing down the guidelines and what the law to set up, the law to actually control. But when they come to actually implement it, there's a weakness. For example, to actually find out who is the culprit that actually caused the pollution, there's a difficulties there, and there's a gray area there.
Yep.
For example, in an area that let's say along a river, there's a lot of plants that actually produce the same types of waste. And when the river is polluted, how can we actually identify who is the main culprits to these pollutions?
Right.
Or if they are producing the same type of waste. Yeah, so I think this is one of the weakness. It's really difficult to actually identify the one who caused the pollutions.
Right.
This is one of the weakness. Yeah.
Yep. What about other students in online? Do you have any other opinion? Bimalan? Shiming? Do you have any opinion on the Environmental Quality Act, which I think it's really good, but I also think it's not good enough. Probably it's not strictly enforced. Yeah. What about Gaga? Do you have any opinion? Hi, Gaga.
Hey, hey, Dakshi.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm not
Yep.
very
What do you think about the Environmental Quality Act? Do you think it's effective, or do you think we do have the law, but it's not strictly enforced? I'm not too sure. What do you think?
Sorry, I have no idea.
No, it's all right. We have Taylor. What do you think, Taylor? Hi, Taylor. You are the real estate expert, right? Anyway, Gerger, we have concluded that the Land Acquisition Act, the Town and Country Planning Act is effective. What do you think? Is it effective? Or probably you have a different opinion? What do you think, Gerger, on the discussion that we had today? What about Taylor? Hi, Taylor. No? No opinion? Oh, hi. Huadu. What do you think?
Hello, Doctor. Because I'm majoring in civil engineering, I think the construction situation is really important to protect the environment, like the sounds. You know, in living in the urban, and in the night we have the limited. If you want to construct the sounds below 15 dB, and in the daytime, like 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., like below 75 dB is different, and this is protects our daily life. And I think most important thing is dust. You know, the construction process, they have lots of stone and something like that. And if you smoke lots of smoke, and it's a harm to your body, and not only you are in the construction, if you are passenger and you meet the smoke, so I think it's really, really important. And in China we have a really high, how to say, when you I really don't know how to describe this in English.
Haze or the pollutions?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because the water, do you know the water? Sometimes the water will be polluted by the chemistry. You know, the material sometimes have the chemistry.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
we need to deal with the water, the air, and the land, and the sound, and lot of things. Thank you. That's all. Thank you.
Yep. What she said is that we have water pollutions, the noise pollutions that affect the overall quality of life of the people because of the irresponsible developers. So in other words, the Environmental Quality Act is really helpful, and it's effective, I would say. What about Taylor? Do you have any other opinion on that? Or Gerger?
Yes, sorry, you were asking me?
Yeah, Taylor. What do you think about the Environmental Quality Act?
Environment Quality Act.
Yeah. Or you have opinion on the Land Acquisition Act or the Town and Country Planning Act that we have concluded that is effective?
If for right now, if there's something that come in my mind is Town and Country Planning Act and also the Land Acquisition at the same time lah. Which is now I think because if I'm not mistaken, Ling has brought up a very good thing, which is the Heritage Act, right? That's protecting some of the properties in Penang and Malacca.
Yep.
Okay. When she say it's very good, yes, I do agree on that. But I also see it as because there's a thing called this Grade A title. This Grade A title which actually protects all this heritage building, But then I think this grade A title gives the owner a lot of rights, so that if the government were to take over without the consent of owner, government can't do it anymore. For this grade A title, if I'm not mistaken, Dr. Haas, you can correct me if I'm wrong lah. And also this for this, I think it's good for individual, but is for as a macro aspect, it's not that good. So why I say as a macro aspect it's not that good is because usually if government were to take over the places, but then if there's no any, okay, because you have to keep in mind, not all these heritage places, right? Yes, it's very nice, it's very Instagrammable, but then it's not every development is well taken care. Some of the places in Malacca it's already abandoned, but then all these owners, they are trying to wait and see. They are trying to wait and see who I can sell to a better one. Usually, government when they want to take over, it's for the public benefit, it's for the public good. So that so it's rather, I think some of the times government taking over is rather than owners keeping there and leave it abandoned. That's what I think. That's why I think that there's a downside of this grade A title.
Thank you for sharing. I do agree with you. What do you think, Wong? What do you think about the grade A building? Can the government acquire that kind of building? Let's say the government wanted to acquire the heritage building to develop, to build probably a new MRT at Malacca.
I think that one is looking into the local authority act.
Okay.
The local authority act mentions if the building is abandoned or really very nuisance to the surroundings.
Which is the heritage building, grade A?
Probably, because
Okay.
I read it in the local authority act.
All right.
If the buildings create nuisance to the
Alright.
surroundings, then the local authority can have the rights to intervene to the areas to use some remedies.
Right. So what he's
Probably there is no action taken by the local authorities.
right. So what he's saying is that the government still has the right to acquire such building.
It's not, but probably just to remedy the situation.
Yep. If it's not good for the people, yeah. Building that has been abandoned, so the government has the right to acquire that piece of land and building to develop.
Case, like in Penang, there is one heritage, they call it the Blue House.
Blue House.
Yeah, used to own by a businessman, the Chinese businessman. But then eventually, over the years, the care of the Chinese businessman is no longer there.
Right.
And then the house becomes is how to say, occupied by different peoples.
Right.
Yeah. But eventually, the government intervenes and then they remedy the place and
Right.
transform the place into some sort of like museums.
Yep. Museum.
Blue Mansion, right?
The Blue Mansion.
Blue Mansion.
The Blue Mansion has become a museum to the people, which is good. It's part of the learning the history. What do you think, Hao Jie? Do you have any other opinion apart from what we have discussed? Probably you want to share your point of view on the effectiveness on the regulatory framework. Hao Jie? What about Gerger? Do you have anything to share apart from what we have discussed? Probably you want to add on. Hi Gerger.
No, thank you.
Oh, okay, it's all right. So can we conclude everything like it's effective or it's not effective? But
I'd like to ask one question.
Okay.
Not opinion. I still remember about the bird nest house issue, where mentioned by, I think Doctor mentioned about how the local authority, they give license to those firms to operate on residential building.
Right.
So they legalize the use of that land or that building. So we know that maybe that is for the purpose of the revenue.
Right.
So it has conflict with our environmental purpose, right?
I see.
So maybe you guys have other opinion on
What do you think?
either this is beneficial for our environmental or does it affect the environmental in entirety?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Do you think it's good for the
Is it
environment?
farming?
Huh?
Is it good for the environment?
Yeah. What do you think,
Because
Aya?
I think it's produce smell and also noise
Yeah,
pollution.
it's
and
very smelly as well. I went there a lot of times. Very smelly. What do you think, Ayel? Do you think it's very bad for the environment?
I don't
Because-
think it's very bad for the environment, but
What about the people live
I
there?
don't know.
Yeah.
That one poses a problem, lah.
Yeah, because-
Especially the bird poop.
Right, yeah, exactly. You want to clean up the air. So nasty.
So my concern is more on the regulation or the law perspective.
Right.
I mean, how can the local authorities
Okay.
also they are set or they are binded by the regulation from above, but they still acting differently
Right.
from the set guidelines.
Yep.
So who give them the authority to give the license, or is it
no license?
Yeah.
There's no license.
No license.
So the Local Authority Act can resolve this issue because the Local Authority Act empower the local authority officers to grant the business license to all these the hawker stores and also your business menus, all these things. Probably they should how to say impose or enforce all these mass farmers to obtain their license.
Right.
So upon any complaints from the surroundings, they have the rights to revoke the license. So then the business will become illegal. So the issue can be controlled.
The issue can be controlled.
Like that.
Yep. What about other students? Hayel?
I have a question for you.
You have a questions for me? That's very good. What's the questions?
You keep asking whether it's effective or ineffective. I don't think that it can be distinguished because there are a lot of things that work within an act and some that don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think it's the right question to answer.
So it's not effective?
I don't think you can just I don't think you can just group it in that sense
I see, I agree.
whether it's effective
It's very
or
general.
ineffective.
Yeah,
It's a
subjective,
very gray
right?
line. It's a very gray
Yeah,
line.
because of different scenario problems
Yeah.
with different acts.
Like the tribunal, some things work, but at the same time,
It
it's
may
not.
not works.
I've read that it's not easy to claim as well at the
Yeah.
same time, as easy as they make it sound.
Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of dressing there.
yeah. I do agree. What you say is that,
It looks pretty on the outside, but
yeah,
yeah.
I think Malaysia have a lot of legislation and law enacted to govern substance issues and cases, which is good, but somehow we need the stringent enforcement to parallel with what we legislated and enacted.
yeah,
Whatever we have doing,
yeah,
and at a certain point, we not really follow what law is enacted,
right.
then the law is vague.
Yeah,
But
interesting.
Yeah.
it goes down to ethics and transparency.
Yes.
Yeah,
So our law is like going through series of amendment
yeah,
Pointless
to
amendments.
accommodate what the current situations and
Yeah.
issues going on, right? So whatever happens, if we didn't have the stringent enforcement, so there's nothing at the end of the day.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
I agree.
on the party interpret
Yep.
the law.
Yep. So what we trying to say is that we do have a very nice law that has been amended a lot of times, which is very beautiful, but inside it's not
I won't say
not
it's
too
very
nice.
beautiful.
Because we need more enforcement
Yep.
and we need more discipline, and the government really need to look into enforcing all the law that we have.
Intervene and enforce.
I agree.
Yeah.
Intervene and enforce.
Like strict enforcement.
Yep.
Yeah.
What do you think, online student? Do you think that?
Takashi,
Yes. Hi.
I would like to voice out my opinion because recently I have come across this land reclamation.
Yeah.
Okay, that we certain states such as Terengganu, Malacca, Penang, they are quite actively in land reclamation.
Yep.
As in this land reclamation,
I think our government didn't really have a very concrete and specific law to enforce in this the whole land reclamation project. Is like is it necessary to have land to be reclaimed? And then if the government approve all this land reclamation project, like do they really consider about all the impacts towards the environment? Because it's like the government is doing it, it's a part of the land law, but then what is the specific law that is applicable to land reclamation? Yeah, this is what I have come across.
Thank you very much to share your opinion. What about Chu Yin Wan? Do you have anything to add, Gege, Hao Jie, before we conclude?
I want to add some for Ziming question on the land reclamation.
Okay.
I have done some research on the land reclamation on what kind of act do the reclamation impose, we can impose. As I see, land is the state matter. So everything on the state matter is under section 5, if I'm not mistaken, is under section 5 of the PEC, Planning Act. So anything is on the state decision, and basically for the land reclamation project is ad hoc project.
Right.
So there is no specific act for this kind of issue.
I see.
Recently.
I see. Thank you for sharing. Because of interest of time, we need to conclude, even though we have a very long discussions to talk about. But generally, what I can see is that we can conclude that we do have effective law. They are very good. In the,
Self-sufficient.
Yep.
Sufficient.
Yep. So it's good, but we need more enforcement on that. Some actors in the real estate market might see that as ineffective, while the actual fact from our discussions is that it's effective, but with more discipline enforcement into our community. That's all from our forum. Thank you, Doctor.